Welcome to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. You're going to hear right now a more candid expressions, and we're going to try to figure out what our topic is going to be tonight, and you're going to see how our process is. So, so I said fun with friends. You want to talk about fun with friends?
And I asked you before, isn't this supposed to be G-rated, this
No,
podcast?
it's not. It's honestly, it's not. It's our original podcast stuff was all very like what was I going to say? It was all very, you know,
Fun, fun with friends. I know. Let's put it this way: I can't talk about a lot of the stuff I did with friends either.
no, but you can. That's the whole point.
I don't think you want me to.
Oh, please don't. Not that. I'm talking about like I don't know, running away from the cops or something like that, or getting into like hijinks. You know what I mean? Everything okay?
Okay. Yes. Let me just. Hi. Now, I was babysitting my grandchildren, and I noticed that the front door was opened, and I didn't know that my daughter had just come home.
Anyway, it's okay.
It's
You can
kinda
talk. You
scary.
can talk to me. You don't have to talk to the audience.
Okay.
You can
Okay.
talk to me.
So talk to you. Okay, I'm talking to you. Okay. Okay. So fun things with friends. Let me think. No, fun things with friends. With some things we did. It's fun. Well, I remember me and my friends. We lived. It was a nice walk, but it was nevertheless was walking distance to, if people who grew up in Baltimore in the 50s, 60s, and part of the 70s remember Reisterstown, when Reisterstown Plaza first opened, and it was a big hangout for teens. In fact, it became like a matter of concern to some of the local authorities how much of a hangout it came. So my friends and I used to walk down Milford Mill, from people familiar with that area. And at that time, Milford Mill did not have, it was old Milford Mill. So they didn't have the new cut through, you might say, where you're not driving over the railroad tracks, where you're driving either above or in another area. In those days, to go to Reisterstown Road from Milford Mill, you had to drive or walk over the railroad tracks. And so my friends and I, we would do this on weekends. We would, get together, walk over the railroad tracks, and walk all the way up to Reisterstown Plaza. And I remember we would go to, at that time, Hochul Cones, and Hochul Cones had a big cosmetic, of course, like most department stores, like Macy's does.
What was it called? Hochul Cones?
It was called Hochul Cones. That was the name. They were at that time your main department stores that were similar to today's Macy's were Hochul Cones or Hutzler's. Or Hutzler's, Hochul Cones, and there was one that started with an S. I forgot the name of it, but it started with an S. And so we would go to the makeup and the perfume department, teenage girls. And of course, they had these free displays of lipsticks and makeup that you could try without buying them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they have that nowadays. Right? People do that nowadays.
So needless to say, we hung out there trying on all the makeup. And I was a big perfume person.
Oh, God.
I used to like to take perfumes and just spritz all types of perfumes. Like you could
smell like a French whore.
I remember a group of girls walking by me and my friends, and they all went, "Whew!" Your aunt, my elder sister Aunt Ann, used to call it cream to skunk.
Cream to skunk. That's awesome.
Needless to say, we were, don't ask how many, rowdy teenage girls, don't ask how many stores and restaurants we got thrown out of.
For what? Wait, for what? For what?
Being loud and rowdy type thing. And typical teenage girls. Oh, one thing that happened though, that was really funny was Aunt Dan and I and some of her friends were in this store where they sold belts and ties, and it was a small store, a small boutique where they sold clothing accessories. That was their specialty, was accessories. And we're looking around, and we walk out of the store, and we decide to go to this deli to get a snack. We go into this deli, and of course the place is full of teenagers, and the you can see this, the manager's a guy. The manager is really like, you know, some of these kids are, they'll order something like a drink or something and then sit there for hours talking and laughing. And he was like, when kids were finished eating, he was like walking around making sure that, kids weren't sitting there beyond a reasonable period of time and throwing them out left and right. So we come in and I feel something tugging. I was wearing a jacket with a hood. And I feel something tugging on the hood. And this manager says to me, "What's this?" And I turn around and he's holding a tie in his hand it's a tie that's still on like the little hanger thing that they put a tie on with the tag on it. And he said, "What kind of shoplifting is this?" I go, "What?" I go, "What are you talking about?" He says, This was hanging off of your hood." I go, "What?" Evidently, through some freak, my Aunt Ann and I, when we were in the store, we must have brushed up against that tie display, and one of the hooks from one of the hangers caught on to the hood of my jacket. The hood was like, I wasn't wearing the hood as a hood. I was wearing it like behind me. The hood was down. So we said, "Oh my gosh." And we explained to him what happened. And so we said, "Please give us the tie. We'll take it right back to the store." We told him we had no idea that we did not purposely shoplift this thing. So he laughed. He said he believed our story because, I mean, who would shoplift something by putting it on the back of their hood? It's not very, this is not how you shoplift stuff. So we ran back to the store, and the lady was in the middle of locking up the store. She had finished for the day. And we were glad we caught up. We ran over to her, and of course we handed her the tie, and we told her the whole story. I was caught onto my hood, and she laughed about it. She thought it was pretty funny.
Wait, didn't your friends used to collect your things behind you because of your horrible ADHD? That you would look at stuff and drop things and whatnot?
Yes, I was very absent-minded. In fact, my friends used to joke around with me, and they said, when you get older is when you're supposed to, have memory problems. Maybe in your case, it'll reverse itself and your memory will actually get sharper as you get older. But I used to buy stuff, and then I would put a package down, be distracted by something else, and leave my package there. And my friends would purposely hang out behind me just to pick up the packages that I had forgotten about. And then before we went home, we'd say, "Here are your packages." I left all over the place.
I think it's very funny that people forget what it's like to be a teenager, because teenagers, I would say, are the most frustrated of all levels of people. Like, if you could say the most frustrated level of people, of course you might have like some 40-year-old man going through a midlife crisis frustrated, but we're talking about like, I remember being a teenager feeling so much anger and frustration and realizing that like all teenagers did, like you felt that like everyone else had the authority, you didn't, but you had the knowledge, you knew what you were doing, and you weren't allowed to use it. You had to sit there and obey. You didn't want to do that anymore. And like, out of curiosity, do you still remember what it's like when you were a teenager, like how you felt and what you went through?
Oh, absolutely. Sure. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said in this culture of ours, this industrialized nation culture of ours, unfortunately, that is, true, that teenagers, one of the problems of being a teenager is that you're betwixt and between. That on one hand, you're no longer a child. On the other hand, you're not quite an adult either. And there's a lot of rights and privileges that adults have that you still don't have at that point as a teenager. I also feel that there's a certain, it's interesting that one constant that runs through adolescent years that seems to be part of time immemorial is the feeling that the adults in charge aren't really trying to listen to you or understand you or trying to see your point of view at all. And you can see this. There's a lot of movies that were made about that during the 1950s. There was the movie with James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause, that had that theme about the teenagers being very frustrated, being caught up in a world where adults who are in charge and authorities are just not paying them any attention or listening to them or taking them seriously. I had that feeling in high school. I remember Gene Pitney, his song "Town Without Pity."
What song
That's
is
the
that?
theme of the song. It's a song by Gene. It was made. There was a movie called "Town Without Pity" starring Kirk Douglas, and they used the theme of the movie was recorded by Gene Pitney, who was a famous singer during the '60s, and it's exactly that about teenagers trying to grow up, trying to be part of their society, and just being misunderstood or ignored or not taken seriously. It's the movie. It's a good movie. It's a very, very interesting movie. Watch it sometime. You ever heard about it?
No.
It's a sad movie. It's about a 16-year-old teenage girl, German girl, that is assaulted by a group of American soldiers that are stationed in that part of Germany.
When was this movie made again?
This movie was made, I think it was 1960, 1961, around, but
Oh.
I think 1961, 62. And it shows how the people in the town are just, they're not trying, they blame her. They don't understand her position as a victim.
I think that
And
that temperament kind of changed nowadays. I don't really see that as something that actually. I don't think people blame the victim anymore as much.
I hope they don't. But every time you think that you're taking 2 steps forward, you're actually taking 1 step back. But part of the movie, when not only were the townspeople, basically very, very unsympathetic to what she went through, but you can see how her parents, and also she has a boyfriend. She has a boyfriend who was there at the time, and the soldiers knocked him out, before assaulting his girlfriend. And the mother of the boyfriend is also like the girl and the boyfriend are very much in love. They want to get married, and the mother talks about her in court as being this silly little 16-year-old girl who all she has on her mind is marriage, instead of saying, these 2 young people really have a great relationship, and so what, they're young, if they feel they're ready for marriage at this stage of the game, why not, type thing. No, instead of, she, as far as she's concerned, that her son's girlfriend is just this very flighty, idiotic little dumb 16-year-old girl. And it's the same theme about the parents. Like her parents are, especially her father, he's this big banker, and his status as a banker and his pride turns out to be more important to him than helping his daughter to get through this. In other words, everyone's got, like I said, not paying attention to what these kids really need.
They're being selfish, self-centered people that only care about their own personal, aspects.
I found that too in high school too. I remember there was a couple incidences in high school. Basically, I was pretty good. I was a very good student. I basically kept out of trouble. But I was a normal teenage girl, and there were a couple incidences that I had in high school where I felt that there was a total lack of any type of empathy, sympathy, understanding. I was just expected to, obey and just, walk like a soldier. And no matter what any teacher said to me or insulted me or put me down or whatever. And when we had an incident where the substitute was just obnoxious and putting us all down. And when I reacted to that, I was blamed for being chutzpahdik.
I have 2 questions. One, totally veering off topic. I wanted to ask you what your favorite movie as a teenager. What did you love seeing when you were a teenager that you really enjoyed?
Oh gosh, talk about that's one of the things that we did a lot of.
Go to movies.
Movies were pretty reasonable in those days, reasonably priced.
Yeah, nowadays,
and there were no videos. So if you wanted to see a movie, you had to go. And Oh boy, that we were oh man, we were constantly going to the movies.
Anything stick up? Anything come to mind? Or
The only thing that
anything?
comes to mind were the Beatles movies, and the only reason they come to mind is because they were so lousy.
Ah,
They those movies were so idiotic. They weren't worth the magnetic tape they were recorded on.
I
But
don't know. I saw
I
some of
remember
them.
going to I remember going to a premiere of the first Beatles movie, Hard Day Night, the Baltimore premiere, and the whole crowd in the movie theater, all the girls were screaming, and I wasn't the type of person that believed in screaming for for rock and roll stars, but everybody else was screaming, so I went ahead and screamed along with them.
Oh God. Because
Oh, there was one time. Oh, one time that I took Aunt Judy for her 16th birthday to the movie. Now, in those days, they had children's prices were 12 and under, including 12. It was Aunt Judy's 16th birthday, and Aunt Judy, is short.
yes.
So we came up to the ticket booth, and my spending habits.
Cheapness, so cheap.
Yes. It's I think it's called penury, penury. It's another term for it's another word for, it's a synonym for frugal.
Oh,
Not cheap, frugal.
frugal.
Penury.
Smart.
Penury. So I see how much cheaper the 12-year-old price was than the adult price. I turned around, I pat her on the head. That's right. Today's your 12-year-old birthday. I paid the 12-year-old price for her.
That's awesome. I love it.
But there was one thing, one of our math teachers was reminiscing with us about something that she did. And I remembered it very, because me and my friends used to do this too. In order to get into the movie theaters for the 12-year-old price, a girl could do this very easily. A girl would, wear like a babyish type, like a little girl type dress, and you put your hair in ponytails, don't wear any makeup, purposely make yourself look like you're 12, even though you might be 15 or 16.
Oh, we had a different
And so we could pay
thing.
the cheaper price.
We had a routine when we were younger where you get 4 of your friends, 2 of your friends get a ticket, and then you have one of the guys leave with a spare ticket and give it to one of your friends, and you enter the movie theater and say, "Oh, I was here already. This was just, a ticket that you got me from before." or it would be just you pop open the exit doorway and just let your friends in.
Ooh, but that's dangerous. You could be caught with that.
That's what happened. Some friends of mine who got caught, and they got caught. And what happened was that the manager wanted to know, like, hey, like, which school do you go to? Like, what's your deal? Like we're going to get you, and like, when I go to your principal and whatnot. So they lied, and they, instead of going to TA, they said they went to Ner Yisrael. And then they took them to Ner Yisrael, and the rabbi knew that they went to TA, and it just made things worse. And they got like suspended for a couple of days and whatnot. Like, it was ridiculous.
No.
I mean, honestly, like, looking back, like, teenagers did more fucked up, stupid shit than I could say that like, as an adult, like, I wouldn't do it. Like, whatever. Also, like, as an adult, you have more disposable income. As a kid, you have maybe allowance, or maybe you could work. The weirdest thing that I could understand that some of the schools don't let you work, have like side jobs. They don't let you. If you get caught with the side job, you're like reprimanded.
I think that's wrong. I think there's nothing wrong in teaching a young person how to work and how to handle their money. I think, that's one of the contentions I had, in fact, with the yeshivas in general. One of your older brothers had a little business where, since we lived so close to the bakery, many of his friends didn't. They lived more in a residential area, lived more commercial area. So they would give him some money to buy them, cookies or buns or whatever early in the morning from the bakery. And then they would give him like an extra $1 for his time. And he had a nice little lucrative business going. And I thought it was a great idea. And the principal of the yeshiva, of course, called me, and if he better stop this, and if I catch him doing it again, I'm going to suspend him. And so I said to him, as I said to this rabbi, don't you think creative entrepreneurship should be encouraged and not discouraged? Well, those are the rules. Whenever I could never argue with these people.
You can't argue with
Those
them
are the
because
rules. It's like hitting
they
your head
live
against
in
a
their
brick wall.
they live in their own box, their own world. You can't speak to them about it. You gotta just ignore them, move on, focus on yourself, realize it's a full-time job. It's really how it works. At least in California, it's illegal to expel a kid from school.
Good. I wish they would do that here.
I mean, hey, enough people can, push the vote in Maryland where they can make it illegal. That would be great. I think it's so terrible. It really affects psychologically the kid. Like, where is it going to go? Being such a reject, being rejected. I remember getting suspended and actually getting expelled and feeling that feeling of just that anguish of that pain, like such a pain of rejection. Like, it just oh my God, like, what did I do? What am I going to do? And looking back, it was just so fucking petty and stupid. Like, all it had to be was maybe a sit down talk explanation, yada yada. Like, they'll listen with the right person, they'll listen. But these people are so trigger happy. They're just more than willing to go ahead and suspend or expel or punish. And just that's kind of even as an adult, I'm like, that was stupid. That was the most stupidest thing ever. Like, what is wrong with you?
Well, I was discussing this once with your pediatrician, and he also did not like the idea of suspension. He said the best punishment for a young person is that maybe a detention room during the day. Like, in other words, instead of being in the class, they had to be in a detention room, but they are still made responsible for the work. And that someone brings them the work and they have to do the work, but in this detention room. He says, because, he said he feels that suspension serves really no purpose.
Yeah.
Like, he felt the same way you do. He thought it did more damage.
Yeah. Maybe we'll talk about this next episode. We'll talk about punishment. Punishment for
but
teenagers.
you know something, it all goes down to what we were saying, that the lack of understanding that there is for teenagers among our authoritarian figures.
Yeah,
like you said, no one talked to you. Number, find out why you did. Maybe there was a good reason why you did what you did.
I mean, it was a relief to have one rabbi or one teacher in the entire time I was a teenager that would sit me down and we'd have a conversation. And that was a few of them here and there, but it was just absolutely ridiculous, but what happened. But anyways, we're out of time. Hopefully, God willing, we can touch base on this again starting next episode. But thank you so much, everybody, for listening, and have a wonderful day.
Have a good Shabbos.
Have a good Shabbos, and I love you.
Love you, honey.
Thank you for listening to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. Please like and share and find us on Facebook at Jewish Boy Calls His Mother Podcast. We are looking forward to hearing from you.